Well, good evening, folks. The real Captain Kirk here. We're live from One Bethlehem Plaza here tonight on the 5th of October here, Saturday. Unfortunately, as you know, we back in January put out a video here warning of the worst severe weather damage in the U.S. In 7 years, about $286 billion in damages, 110% above average, and 210% more than last year. Sadly, with Helene, probably looking at least a $115+ billion damage. So it's definitely pretty much verified our most active severe weather season in 13 years for tornadoes. Wildfires, we said the most in 4. We're actually now the most in 7 in terms of acres burned. Flooding, we said the worst since 2019 and 1993. And that obviously happened with Helene and Beryl and Debbie in the Northeast earlier this spring. So again, it's been widespread across the country here. Now we're going into a drought cycle here for 2025. And hurricanes, again, we'll see. Again, we got another one here, unfortunately, coming, and that's headed for Florida. And that would be Milton. Milton is formed in the western Gulf of Mexico here. And again, it's going to be traversing over solid 87-degree water temperatures the entire Gulf. This thing looks like, according to the models, is just going to explode. So some of the shear that was prohibiting it is now gone. And so, again, very, very concerned about Milton. The Hurricane Center's projecting a major hurricane hitting somewhere near Tampa, Florida, Wednesday afternoon. We are up to Milton again on the list here again. So we've already had 4 landfalling hurricanes this year. Kirk, ironically, out there in the Atlantic, is going to head toward Europe and probably make landfall maybe even in France as the remnant of a hurricane, but still could be some severe flooding and wind in that area as well. And we still got Leslie out there, and then maybe another system coming off of Africa. But again, Major Hurricane Milton here, again, the official track of the Hurricane Center's on the left here, taking it right toward Tampa Bay. Let's hope this thing goes just south of Tampa Bay, because that would keep them out of the right front quadrant. You never want to be in the right front quadrant. Huge difference between literally 20 miles right front versus the left front quadrant. So again, if this were to go just north of Tampa Bay, it puts a huge storm surge, even bigger than what Helene did, and huge waves on top of that, which would inundate MacDill Air Force Base there in the bay, the peninsula in the bay, and downtown Tampa would be under potentially 20 feet of water with a storm surge and waves on top of that. So the waves, again, maps right here. All the models, guidance bottom right there shows pretty strong consensus. Euro, GFS, again, all of them take them right toward Tampa. We'll see here. Cat 2 to Cat 4. And again, Helene's a good classic example. We have 87-degree water temperatures out there. I'd lean high, again, because just Helene went from nothing to major Cat 4 in 2 days. And I think, unfortunately, Milton has the same potential here, only it's going to be out over very warm waters for, we've got about 4+ days here before it would make landfall. So, again, very, very concerned about Milton. If you're in Tampa area and Florida, again, you got to keep an eye on this thing, because it looks like it, unfortunately, will be a pretty devastating, for sure, landfalling system somewhere in Florida. Again, Central looks to be the best. 14-day storm track here shows through the 18th of October. You see the huge storms as they explode as these hurricanes go toward the UK and Europe. Again, they tend to become much broader extratropical storms, but again, so several actually impacting UK, Europe. So they're going to hear a lot of reports of wind damage and rain. And again, we've just, for the near term, we're just Milton here impacting the U.S. If we look at where we are hurricane season here today, all the metrics now have jumped above average for the season. I got 13 named storms, 1 unnamed storm, so officially 14 systems. We've already had 4 landfalling hurricanes. 2 is more typical of any given year. Sadly, we've got 56 days of this. In fact, if you look at some of the big October devastating storms, it's usually in October. The big ones are usually October time frame. So again, got to watch the month here. Again, still a lot of systems coming off of Africa. Again, this was kind of our year ahead outlook for the red areas where we think the most damage risk would be. So again, pretty much happened with Beryl and Francine and Helene and Debbie again in the reemerged off the Carolinas, and now we got one headed for South Florida. Some good news here, again, in terms of the warmer weather in the southeast, warmer humid weather. Flu season's off to the slowest start in 4 years. And again, if we look back at 2002, we just very cold. I mean, I think October of that year was the coldest in 20+ years in the southeast, and that led to a cold and dry, led to an early outbreak of flu in the deep southeast. And again, that went off to be a very epic peak, very early peak, actually, at Thanksgiving. Then last year, again, we had the southeast a bit warmer, warmest in 3 years, above average temperatures, and had more of a late start, so it peaked about 4 or 5 weeks later around Christmas. This year, the Southeast is warmest in 5 years, much above average temperatures in the Southeast this year, and flu season's very, very slow to start. So we're leaning more toward a January 25 late peak this year, even later than last year. In fact, we'll see it's another Type A season. Let's hope there's some herd immunity in the population here, since we had 3 years in a row of Type A. So maybe we'll get lucky here with a not so horrific flu season. New site we found here. I love this site. Again, is www.explorefall.com. Shows you the fall foliage. You can see map left here. We are way ahead of schedule here in the Northeast because of drought. We've had an extremely dry summer, fall, periods of excessive rainfall. But again, overall theme has been dry. So leaves are coming down early and expanding south pretty quickly here versus map right was last year. So again, check out the site. Again, neat animations of the fall foliage. Look at last week ending here tonight. Again, here in the U.S., it was a tad cooler, 0.9 cooler, but still second hottest in 39 years. So, last year's obviously number one. 52% drier than last year, driest in 21 years, fourth driest in 39. The favorable spots in terms of seasonal merchandise sales would be there in the UK and Europe, where it's below normal temperatures and much, much colder than last year. So our Power of One would suggest very strong seasonal sales in the UK and Europe, then very wet. So again, they need the demand because they're feeling like fall there. So again, maps inset left are the trends versus average. Look at this week here. Again, obviously all eyes are going to be on Milton. Again, it is the week prior to Columbus Day here. So some good news for seasonal sales here in the east, particularly maybe the northeast is the one area that's actually below average temperatures and colder than last year. Central Plains very, very hot versus average, hot versus last year. Overall, 5 degrees warmer than last year, warmest in 3. Third warmest in 39. Rainfall way down again, 43% drier than last year, ninth driest again. But don't tell folks that in Florida. They could be looking at 6 to 12 plus inches this week alone, and then unfortunately more with a stalled system down there for next week. So this week ending 19 October, again, same general trends, 3.1 warmer than last year, warmest in 8 years, third warmest in 39. Rainfall again down nationally. This is good for farmers out there harvesting all the crops again, but more heavy rain there, unfortunately, there in Florida where they won't need it. So it's a sandy soil down there, so they can dissipate the water a little more quickly than, say, the Carolinas and those valleys in the high mountains of Carolinas, North Carolina. But still, they can't handle over a foot of rain in a couple-week period. But yeah, I agree with these world 2-week trends here again. So the general theme is if there's going to be a favorable spot for seasonal sales, it'll be in the Northeast, Europe, Western Europe, but again, pretty much hot around the world. And again, a lot of that's due to the water vapor from Tonga, the volcano a couple years ago. So it's a global warming greenhouse gas, and there's tons of excess moisture there. We see that excess moisture again here in the preset maps here with, again, very, very heavy rain again across equatorial Africa. And so need to watch. These are the big ones that come off Africa and make big hurricanes heading toward the U.S. So right now, fortunately, they're veering out into the Atlantic and not so fortunately hitting Europe, but we'll see if these can traverse the Caribbean here. So again, not out of the woods at all. Real quick tonight, again, there's been a very active solar cycle 25 peaking here. So we've got the aurora threat. Spaceweather.com is projecting that even tonight here could be some auroras deep into the U.S. It hasn't happened just yet. You can see maps bottom right there, but could be a quick explosion of auroras again here with this CMEs that are heading our way here tonight. So again, something to watch here. And again, if you don't miss it tonight, they're probably sure it's going to be in the next few weeks, few months as we're in the peak of this solar cycle. So with that, folks, have a great evening. Be safe out there, and we'll have updates on social media about Milton.